Episode 1. The opening scene features a married couple, Henry and Claire, who are talking to an interviewer. They recount their separate experiences of what time travel is like. Henry possesses a special ability. He can travel through time. However, he calls it a disability because it seems to have affected the normalcy of his life. He cannot control the when and where of his travels, sometimes disappearing for hours, days, weeks, or even months. According to Henry, one of the major problems of time travel is that he cannot carry any clothes from the present time and always ends up naked after transporting to a different reality. As a result, he has learnt how to steal, fight, and run because they're the basic skills for him to survive against the odds in different time frames. And 9 places out of 10 that he ends up, flashing is met with aggression. For Claire, she just hears the water running, or she'll walk into the room and see a pile of clothes, and that's when she realizes that he's gone again. She then has to wait and worry until he's back. When a question arises about their first meeting, the scene flashes back to the past. A 20-year-old Claire, who studies at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, is seen visiting the Newberry Library. There, she encounters 28-year-old Henry, who works as a librarian. Claire recognizes him, even though he doesn't recall her. She reveals details about a scar on his forehead, beneath his long hair, and a strawberry-shaped birthmark on his foot. Shocked and perplexed, Henry wonders how she knows such details about him. "You've been following me on Twitch?" She answers that she met 14 years ago when she was young. That time she met the older version of Henry, and now she is meeting the younger version. This is the reason why he doesn't recognize her yet. Later, the two meet for dinner in order to discuss the matter in more detail. Claire hands him a journal containing 152 dates that he had dictated to her. It's the date that he would be showing up to see her. Henry is obviously unaware of this, as it was the older version who did the dictating. As their conversation unfolds, Claire reveals that she first met him when she was very young. She was playing in the garden when she heard his voice from the bush. A 36-year-old Henry introduced himself as her new friend. Creepy. And requested her to arrange some clothes for him. Creepier. As a result, she went home and stole her father's clothes from his closet. Henry then revealed himself. Not like that. After putting on the clothes. And that's when she saw the birthmark on his foot. He told the girl that he's going to reappear many times in the future. She looked confused. So, he explained some rules about time traveling. He also recounts how time traveling was first explained to him. The scene further shifts back in time when a 7-year-old Henry is seen visiting a museum with his parents. Upon returning home, he asks his mother to revisit the museum, to which she agrees. Later that night, the young Henry time travels for the first time and returns to the museum where he meets the 28-year-old version of himself. The older version says that he'll meet him more often and will be teaching him everything about time travel. Before they can converse further though, they're transported to another time frame. The 28-year-old one ends up in front of a couple, completely naked. He then beats up the guy, steals his clothes, and goes to meet Claire at the restaurant, continuing the earlier scene. It's romantic, so we're gonna gloss over the fact that Henry's a criminal. After dinner, Henry brings her to his apartment, which is in a completely messed up state. He then blindfolds her, okay, Jesus Henry, and asks her to count to 100 while he quickly cleans it up. Once done, he removes her blindfold, and the two start making out. The following morning, Claire uses his bathroom only to find the underwear of another girl. Turns out that Henry has a girlfriend named Ingrid. This obviously makes her mad, prompting her to walk away in anger. The 36-year-old Henry, who is talking to 6-year-old Claire, gets teleported to this time frame and witnesses Claire's storming off. He follows her to a local bar and offers an apology on behalf of his younger self. Claire expresses her frustration that she gets the younger version of him when it's this one she knows and loves. However, he somehow manages to console her, after which he goes to talk to the younger version, who is waiting outside the bar. He advises the younger Henry to focus on 2 things: finding the love of his life and dying as slowly as possible. You got that, you little idiot? Afterward, the older Henry travels back to his own reality and cuddles with his sleeping wife. Episode 2. The scene then cuts to an incident when 8-year-old Henry and his mother Annette drive to the airport to pick up his father on a Christmas morning. A joyful occasion takes a tragic turn as their car is hit by another vehicle, resulting in a severe accident that claims Annette's life. Henry narrates that this haunting memory stays vividly imprinted in his mind, and he travels back to this particular incident over and over again. The scene ends with Henry, from various stages of his life, standing and witnessing the gruesome death of his mother. Next, we see 28-year-old Henry and 20-year-old Claire arguing on a train. He is pressuring her into going on a second date. Claire refuses, expressing her disinterest in this version of Henry since she had fantasized about his older self. However, he claims that they can't change what's fated to happen. As a result, they end up in a cafe, the spot they were meant to be at. There, a man painted in green brings her a banana latte. Now that's serendipity. This reminds her of how old Henry had told her that he would talk about his mother on this very day. Upon inquiring, he finally discloses his mother's name, Annette Lynn Robinson. Claire instantly recognizes her as a renowned opera singer who met a tragic end in a car accident. This realization makes her feel bad for him, but he says that he still gets to see her, being a time traveler and all. He shares instances of witnessing his parents' engagement and interacting with them in a park, even playing with a baby version of himself. But the baby kept beating him at peekaboo, and that really pissed him off. Henry proceeds to reveal that he repeatedly traveled back in time to train his 8-year-old self on skills such as stealing clothes, money, and other surviving essentials. During the training, the younger Henry said that his mother is dead, but the older Henry knew that she hasn't reached that fate yet. Hearing this, the younger Henry wondered if he could save her, but the older version claimed that they can't change anyone's fate. To prove it, the older Henry predicted that he'll rise from his chair and run in approximately 30 seconds. Surely enough, the young Henry saw his mother and rushed towards her. He tried to warn her about the impending accident and revealed his time-traveling abilities. However, she dismissed his concerns as mere excuses for skipping school and berated him instead. Henry explains to Claire how after trying and failing each time, he realized that he cannot change the events that occur in time. After their lunch, Henry takes Claire to the library to show her a memory box containing recordings of his mother's performances. Among them is a tape recording of her show, and the pair sits down to listen. Amidst this, Henry confesses that he had never listened to the tape before because these memories acted like bear traps that would make him feel stressed and transport him back to the past. However, he also believes that this is an opportunity for Claire to meet his mother. This leaves her perplexed, but Henry insists that she think of a question she wants to ask his mother. Claire poses this one: how do couples manage to stay together through time? When Henry plays the recording, Annette says a gentleman asked her a question on behalf of Claire. She answers the question, saying that couples get together just for a while, but it's better to be happy for a little while than to just be okay your entire life. Stunned, Claire asks how that happened, to which Henry replies that the question was asked by his older self, who had traveled to his mother's past. Episode 3. Back at present, the elderly Claire shares her bizarre love story to the audience. She compares her old age with her young age because both involve waiting. She recalls how she was 6 years old when she first met her soulmate. During one visit, Henry mentions that he would meet her parents when she would be 20. This triggers something in her mind and wonders who she is to Henry in the future. She knows that he had a wife named Claire, but he never confirms anything more about it. One day, Claire bolsters the courage to ask Henry if she would be his wife in the future, which he denies. The present Claire thinks that what he did was the safest way to deal with a 13-year-old girl. One night, she is woken up by Henry's scream. She runs towards the woods, only to find his father and brother engaged in shooting. She also discovers a patch of blood in the snow, which soon disappears from her sight. This hints at Henry's accident that will impact his future. Claire then shares it with Henry in their next meeting, but he doesn't seem to be bothered by it. As Claire turns 16, we see her starting to flirt with Henry. She refuses to give him his clothes and makes him win checkers to get them back. They also go to the park and have ice cream together, which is when they are noticed by Claire's school friends. And then Henry goes to jail. The next time Henry visits, he finds Claire's note stating that she has gone to a party. She leaves him with a sandwich and some clothes though. While he waits at their usual spot, Claire is at the party with school friends. There, she becomes attracted to a sportsman named Jason. Later on, the party seems to have turned into a disaster as Claire, disheveled and covered in dirt, frantically searches for Henry at their meeting point. As soon as she finds him, Henry disappears. On their next encounter, Claire is in a dark mood and takes Henry for a car ride. On the way, she asks him to introduce his younger self to her. Henry rejects the idea, asserting that their meeting will occur when it is meant to. Fueled by anger and frustration, Claire drives the car at a scary fast speed, reasoning that there's no way they can die since he already knows a future version of her. However, Henry persuades her, asserting that the future is built on the choices she makes now. As they come to a stop, Claire makes a strange request. She asks Henry to kill Jason. She believes that he can easily disappear, even if he gets arrested. After a while of contemplation, the 32-year-old Henry contacts his 24-year-old self, who works at the library. He asks the younger version not to be alone for the night, as he will need an alibi from 8 to 10 p.m. Following this, Henry and Claire drive to Jason's house and abduct him using her father's gun. Even though she plans to kill him, Claire brings his inhaler along with her. Soon after, she changes her mind, and now she wants him to suffer, not die. Perplexed, Henry seeks an explanation, prompting Claire to disclose what happened that night with her. She exits the car and reveals the bruises on her body. She clarifies that he assaulted her, but didn't force himself on her. However, the present Claire narrates that she lied to Henry, as Jason did indeed do dirty things to her. She believes that by sharing the truth, it'll always be a part of their story. According to her account, we learn that Henry has already passed away by this point. Back in the past, Henry is shocked and enraged, now wanting to take matters into his own hands. He binds Jason to a tree and holds him at gunpoint. Jason tries to prove his innocence by referring to the texts Claire had sent him after that night. According to him, she was happy and had enjoyed the night. In response, Claire explains that she sent those texts out of fear that Jason would harm her. Henry shouts at him, saying that she can never enjoy such an experience, and he knows her because she's his wife. This revelation leaves Claire stunned, but Henry vanishes before they can delve deeper into the conversation. Alone now, Claire summons all of her friends who would have been abused by Jason. They then surround him and write their stories of pain on his body. Episode 4. In the following scene, we see 20-year-old Claire preparing dinner for Henry with the help of her best friend Charisse and her boyfriend Gomez. Claire tries her best to cook a decent meal, but fails. Because of this, Henry decides to help her. As they are busy preparing dinner, the doorbell suddenly rings. It's 41-year-old Henry, who has just time-traveled and wants shelter at Claire's apartment. Despite initial reservations, Henry permits his older self inside upon learning that he's being pursued by the police for appearing naked in public. We then cut to the past meeting when Claire switches out Henry's clothes for a suit. It's her 18th birthday and their last meeting for another 2 years. According to the dates mentioned by him, Claire wants to make this day memorable and desires intimacy. Henry thinks it's a bad idea to engage in a physical relationship before the time it's meant to be, but despite this reluctance, he falls for the charms of Claire and gives in to temptation. Classic Henry. After spending the night together, he time travels to Claire's apartment, disrupting the earlier dinner scene. The next scene features 19-year-old Claire, who has ended up sleeping with Gomez while her best friend is away. Boy, Henry and Claire really deserve each other. Soon after, the guilt overcomes her because she just betrayed her only best friend. Seeing her cry, Gomez admits that he loves Claire more than he does Charisse. But despite this, Claire makes it clear that it won't happen again because she loves Henry, whom she'll meet again after a year. After leaving her apartment, a heartbroken Gomez tries to drink away his sorrow. Outside the bar, he notices a couple engaged in a heated argument. The couple is none other than 28-year-old Henry and his girlfriend Ingrid. Gomez interferes and holds Henry off so the woman can get away. This is the first time when Gomez met Harry, and it goes about as well as when Harry met Sally. Later that night, Charisse reveals that she has feelings for Claire and kisses her. This unexpected action prompts Claire to push her away, claiming that she never wants to get in between her and Gomez. Despite this reluctance, the two best friends end up sleeping together. Every character in this movie is about as randy as Austin Powers. Yes, that was a British accent. Yeah, buddy. Back to the dinner scene, Claire tries to hide the presence of the two Henrys from Gomez and Charisse, but to make the matters worse, Ingrid arrives at the apartment. Charisse perceives Ingrid as Henry's friend, so she allows her inside. Ingrid heads straight to Claire's room, but she doesn't appear fazed by the presence of two Henrys, as she's aware of his time-traveling ability. Ingrid loves the young Henry, while Claire admires the old Henry, yet they're both lovers of the same man. As a result, the jealousy between the two girls is evident, but they try to maintain a code of conduct, and a full-blown orgy ensues. After this, the elderly Henry suggests that they explain their situation to Claire's friends, who are waiting for for them in the kitchen. As anticipated, Gomez and Charisse are startled to witness the two Henrys at the same time. They believe them to be twin brothers, but Henry tells them about his time-traveling gene. To demonstrate this ability, he provides Gomez with a list of stocks to invest in. Claire then asks Henry to use his capabilities to prevent calamities and save the world. However, he declines, emphasizing the impossibility of altering life events through time. Except for getting rich off the stock market, I guess. This is the reason why he considers himself as a man with a genetic disorder, experiencing life in a chaotic sequence, rather than considering himself a superhero. Amidst their discussion, Ingrid asks about her future. When Henry remains answerless, she asks if she's dead. All that he can say is that she doesn't have much time left, which breaks her down into tears. Jesus, Henry. In an attempt to console her, he remarks that everyone will eventually die in the future. He even believes that his life can perhaps be over by the time he turns 42, because that's the oldest he's been so far. But just because he knows his time will soon end doesn't mean he'll stop experiencing life. At last, he gives her a comforting hug and disappears. That was poetic, but it was still a dick move from Henry. Episode 5. In the next scene, 28-year-old Henry meets Gomez at a local bar. They try to forge a friendship because the two are meant to be best friends in the future. Henry can't stop his humorous self from making fun of his future best friend, which only offends Gomez. He also can't believe that Gomez becomes his best friend because he can't stand him right now. The scene then shifts to a flashback that shows 16-year-old Claire meeting 38-year-old Henry at their usual meeting place. She draws him naked, even though he is fully clothed. She refuses to show him, but he seems to be aware of the eventual outcome. He knows how much of a horn dog she is. After the bar meeting, Claire takes 28-year-old Henry to meet her family. On their way, Gomez keeps calling Henry to mend their relationship, though it's again Henry's humor that exacerbates the situation. Upon arriving at their destination, Claire's parents, Philip and Lucille, and her brother Mark, greet Henry at the door. As they sit together for a meal, Philip asks about Henry's future career plans. However, he seems disappointed to learn that Henry aims to be a librarian and nothing more. After some formalities, Claire gives Henry a partial tour of the house, but she avoids showing him the meadow where she used to meet the older Henry. The following morning, Claire's younger sister Alicia introduces herself by trying to get Henry to kiss her while he's in the bathroom. Alicia is aware of Henry's time-traveling secret because she has seen Claire talk to a naked man whose appearance changed over time, and she got time travel out of that? Claire had opted to explain the truth to Alicia rather than have her report the incident to their parents. Unfortunately, the stress of Alicia's introduction triggers Henry to time travel. Claire now has to stall lunch, earning Henry some time to get back from wherever he ended up. We then see Henry land naked on top of an angry biker gang member outside a bar. The mobster doesn't take it in a calm way, which ensues a brawl between the two. Henry somehow manages to gain control, but he's soon outnumbered and gets beaten up. Just then, Gomez arrives at the scene and scares off the gang by pointing out that the nearby surveillance cameras are catching their illegal activities. And if their other biker friends see the footage of them with a naked guy, what might they think? Following this, Henry and Gomez head to a bar where they discuss how they both love the same woman, Claire. Gomez admits that he loves her despite knowing the fact that she loves Henry and that he has no chance with her. It is at this moment that Gomez confesses the first time he saw Henry. It was through the sketch that Claire drew of him. After hearing all of this, Henry jokingly asks if Gomez wants to wipe him out of the picture so that he can try his chances with Claire. This causes Gomez's expression to change, and he seriously admits that he would never wish that for his best friend. Before Henry disappears again, Gomez tells him to make a note of today's date and to tell Gomez's past self about it. Henry then returns to Claire's house, where her family is waiting for them to join them for lunch. The family members are clearly worried after witnessing the bruises on his face. Henry and Claire try to cover up the truth from the family, but they are unable to come up with a believable story. Moreover, her brother keeps on interrogating Henry in detail, which fuels Claire Claire with anger. As a result, she yells at Mark, as well as her parents, for being so annoying, and even ends up slipping that she'll be marrying Henry. She then runs to the meadow, hoping that an older Henry will appear and comfort her. Henry goes to her room, only to discover his sketch, indicating the love and admiration Claire has for his older self. Realizing that she needs him, Henry seeks help from Alicia, who is a hairdresser by profession. He asks her to cut his hair short and apply some makeup to look similar to old Henry. Meanwhile, Claire finds that her once magical place now looks different with adult eyes. There's garbage everywhere, and an industrial plant blowing smoke in the distance. Shortly after, Henry approaches her from behind. Her anger melts away as she recognizes the resemblance to the older version that she admires. This triggers a flood of fond memories spent with the older Henry in the past. Henry also promises her to be the one she admires. This moment wins Claire's heart, and they end up sharing a romantic kiss. Episode 6. In the subsequent scene, we see 28-year-old Henry and 20-year-old Claire, who are busy planning their wedding. However, the thought of their future together makes Henry anxious, leading to more time traveling. He frequently travels to the future and ends up in their new lavish house. He wanders around the house and takes note of a distinctive tree that consistently marks his visits to the future. Furthermore, he notices how a video camera is set up in front of a desk and a wheelchair behind it, which indicates that he will injure his foot in the future. Or maybe Wally was right, and in the future everyone will be in chairs. Back to 28-year-old Henry, he tells Claire that he hates videos. Unlike the rest of the world who cherish their happy memories from the past, Henry finds himself compelled to relive those moments over and over again. Therefore, in the world of Henry, videos don't make much sense. Despite this, Claire insists that their wedding is an important day and wishes to film it properly. Apart from this, Henry struggles with the fact that his dad is going to be at their wedding. Here, it is revealed that he has a strained relationship with his father ever since his mother's passing. One day, Henry takes Claire to meet his father and shares the news of their marriage. Surprisingly, the old man and Claire get along in quite a smooth manner. From this day onwards, Henry initiates more frequent visits and calls to his father. During one such visit, he confides in Dad about his apprehensions. He expresses his fear of potentially disappearing on his wedding day, since he is experiencing a lot of time travel lately. He also considers the use of drugs to keep himself calm. In response, his father suggests that he see a doctor, but Henry refuses, claiming that he'll be apprehended if his time-traveling thing is disclosed. In another instance of time travel to the future, Henry hears Claire sobbing alone in bed, clutching an ornate box. He is completely unaware of the situation, which causes him to be stressed and time travel into the present time. Henry then questions 20-year-old Claire about the box, to which she replies that her mother gave it to her to store precious jewelry, though it's currently empty. As the wedding day approaches, Henry's anxiety intensifies because he becomes increasingly concerned about leaving Claire alone at the altar. He shares his fear with her, but she isn't worried because she knows that their future marriage is inevitable. In a desperate attempt to resolve this issue, Henry goes to meet his old friend Ben, who is now a drug dealer. Henry asks him for a drug that can keep him calm for at least 9 hours. His friend then hands him a highly dosed morphine pill. Henry decides to give it a try right away, causing him to pass out. Following this, Henry experiences numerous time travels to the future in a non-stop manner. First, he witnesses the older Henry engaged in a heated argument with Claire, which gets him even more worried. He travels back to the present for a few moments before traveling again. During the second trip, he sees Claire grieving with Gomez at a funeral. Subsequently, in his third trip, Henry finds Claire's ornate box with several positive pregnancy tests. This time, he overhears his older self talking on the phone, saying how Claire thinks he's a murderer. He approaches the older Henry to inquire about the matter. As they talk, the younger Henry learns that Claire has gone through several miscarriages. It turns out that a time traveler's child also experiences time travel despite being inside the womb. Let's see what the biker gang does when that lands on their head. As a result, the couple is struggling to bring their baby into the world. Upon asking what he did to hurt Claire, the older Henry replies that he made a big decision. Without informing Claire, he underwent a vasectomy because he couldn't see her in pain any longer. This decision shattered her hope of giving birth to a child, which is the reason why she is upset. This revelation also infuriates 28-year-old Henry, who vehemently declares he will never take such a drastic step. However, the older Henry says that he'll do the exact same because he can't change the future. Fueled by anger, the younger Henry punches the older one, prompting the latter to time travel back to the wedding day. Meanwhile, the young Henry remains in older Henry's reality and spends the rest of the evening with the future Claire. Henry's father and Gomez are glad to have him back at the right time. The only problem is that it's the old Henry who has gray hair. To resolve this issue, they use black shoe polish to color his hair. After this, they all head to the church for the wedding ceremony. Simultaneously, the future Claire plays their wedding video so that the younger Henry can watch the events unfolding in his own time frame. At the wedding, Claire walks down the aisle and soon realizes the switch between the two Henrys. Despite this, she plays along, and the ceremony goes seamlessly. She is finally married, not to the man she originally anticipated, but to a version of him from another timeline. Meanwhile, in the future, Claire confides in the younger Henry, saying how she wanted his children more than anything in the world. However, she is upset that he gave up after 5 attempts. This makes the younger Henry feel sad, because he's supposed to make her happy. Claire tells him that love is not only about being happy together, but also about dealing with tough situations as a team. She also says that if he forgives her when she hurts him, she'll try to do the same for him. As they converse, Claire expresses that she misses the younger Henry and asks him to keep visiting her time and again. She shows sexual interest in young Henry, primarily because he hasn't gotten a vasectomy yet, and also boy does he bounce back fast. She believes that she has a chance to get pregnant with him, or at least they can try. It's clear that they can't have a child under normal circumstances, but an exceptional one might make that possible. The show ends with both versions of the couple from different timelines sharing a romantic kiss.